tanks that came in to Santo Tomas on February 3rd, 1945, an evening around 8 o'clock. More about 9 o'clock. They broke the gates down and rolled that tank right up to the front gate, and it go from there.
Okay. When we came through the gate, we followed this long, dark road up. We put a flashlight, searchlight, shining in front of us so we could see where we were going. And we came up to the buildings, and the first thing that I saw was a doorway that was a little bit off to, like on a corner, and it had a rattan bamboo curtain that was covering it, and I could see 4 little feet sticking out from under it, and I called out and saying, "If you're American, come on out." And there was a little boy, well, I say little, about 14 years old, and a girl. They came out and they were very frightened. They didn't know whether it was the Japanese or the Germans or what, because she had never seen tank or helmets that we had changed from the start of the war into. So from there, people swarmed all over us. They were up on the tank, in the tank, and mostly they were asking if we had any food. We gave this one Mr. Crab some marmalade and a few other items, and he took them and ran to his shanty, and he gave his wife the marmalade, which came from Australia, and when she saw the word Australia, she started crying. It was something from home. And
say something. Okay.
What do you need?
Okay, that's fine. John Hinke here. You were on the tank. You were with the lead gunner. You were the gunner, and it was the guns in the back. I'm not sure my orientation of the guns.
No.
Where is the gun on the tank?
Well, the one I had was a 75, and a coaxial gun, which was a 30 caliber machine gun. It was 18 inches down from my sight and 19 inches to my left. So every time I fired, I had to take those few feet into consideration so I could hit more or less where I aimed. Right?
Yeah, right. How many crew in the tanks?
Normally there's a 5-man crew. Usually they consist of a sergeant, the tank commander, and a gunner, and assistant gunner, and a driver and assistant driver. On my tank was the captain's tank, so whenever we stopped, he was gone, and we never had a permanent assistant driver, and so on the whole, he was gone, so that left a 3-man crew for our tank, which we did all the maintenance, taking care of the guns, and we got pretty good cleaning guns. We could get through most faster than anybody else, which was to our, not the benefit, but loss, because every time we had our things put together, we would call out to shoot some more, and here I had to clean the guns again. Right?
Okay. Another question. This is an emotional time. This is an emotional time for all of us. I'm Tony Casera. My father was a civilian prisoner of war here at Santo Tomas, and if it were not for the people of 44th Tank Battalion and the 1st Cavalry, I would not be here. When they liberated the tanks, your tank was the Battlin Basics, right? Was. And this is one of the gunners on the Battlin Basic, John Hinke. And I believe when my father heard the tanks were rolling up and crashing through the gates, everyone came out towards the front of the building, and of course the searchlights were going all around, up and down, and he remembered approaching the tank and yelling at one of the, I'm not sure, the gunners or one of the soldiers that were on the tank. Says, "Do you have any cigarettes?" And one of them sort of rose out of the hatch. He's all greased with the oil in his face, and he had this fatigue type, green pajama type thing. And he threw my father a crumpled pack of Lucky Strikes, because he just pulled it out of his pocket and threw it at my father. And my father caught it, and he went over and huddled in a corner over there and lit himself a cigarette. Immediately, two other internees came right up and says, "Francis, are you going to hog that cigarette?" So they both shared that cigarette. It was one of the first cigarettes, real American cigarettes, that they had in 3.5 years. And had it not for these brave soldiers, I would not be here.
Right.
And again, this is my first time to meet John Hinke. And I guess if it was John Hinke or some other person that had thrown that cigarette, doesn't matter. At least I had met one of the people that were on that was on that tank that day that they liberated Santo Tomas University.
Okay.
And
Could I say one thing?
yes.
There was 5 tanks, well actually 6, because my captain's tank was a lone tank, and so we had 6 tanks, approximately 250 infantry, 1st Cavalry, that came in that night into the internment camp. About 700 went to the Battlin Palace. It wasn't intentional, because one of the platoons of tanks had gotten lost because it was dark and they had no guide with them to get into Santo Tomas. So they went back out and came back the next day. So all in all, there was only 800 men in our invasion down from Hinke Gulf. But the rest of the divisions caught up with us about two days. And why we managed to get in here, and we just stupefied the Japanese. We scared the hell of the daylights out of them. And with God's help, we came in.
When the tanks rolled up and the hatch popped open, the civilian prisoners of war, or the kids mostly, swarmed over the tank. And I believe you remembered seeing all these kids just crawling all over. And I think my father remembered hearing one of the commanders or one of the tanks says, "Get those kids off the tanks. Those guns are hot," which means that your guns.
It was very possible, because that was more or less of a threat right then at the time, because he knew that in case the Japanese made a counterattack, with all those children in the way, we wouldn't have been able to fire.